To say nothing of the spiritual advancement of persons who see the Supreme Person face to face. Even a person born in a family of dog-eaters immediately becomes eligible to perform Vedic sacrifices if he once utters the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead or chants about him, hears about his pastimes, offers him obeisances, or even remembers him. Purport. Herein the spiritual potency of chanting, hearing, or remembering the holy name of the Supreme Lord is greatly stressed. Rupa Goswami has discussed the sequence of sinful activities of the conditioned soul, and he has established in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that those who engage in devotional service become freed from the reactions of all sinful activities. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. The Lord says that he takes charge of one who surrenders unto him, and he makes him immune to all reactions to sinful activities. If by chanting the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead one becomes so swiftly cleared of all reactions to sinful activities, then what is to be said of those persons who see him face to face? Another consideration here is that persons who are purified by the process of chanting and hearing become immediately eligible to perform Vedic sacrifices. Generally, only a person who is born in a family of Brahmanas, who has been reformed by the 10 kinds of purificatory processes, and who is learned in Vedic literatures, is allowed to perform the Vedic sacrifices. But here the word sadhya immediately is used, and Sridhar Swami also remarks that one can immediately emphasized, become eligible to perform Vedic sacrifices. A person born in a family of the low caste, which is accustomed to eat dogs, is so positioned due to his past sinful activities, but by chanting or hearing one once in pureness or in an offenseless manner, he is immediately relieved of the sinful reaction. Not only is he relieved of the sinful reaction, but he immediately achieves the result of all purificatory processes. Taking birth in a family of a Brahmana is certainly due to pious activities in one's past life. But still, a child who is born in a family of a Brahmana depends for his further reformation upon initiation into acceptance of a sacred thread and many other reformatory processes. But a person who chants the holy name of the Lord, even if born in a family of Chandalas, dog-eaters, does not need reformation. Simply by chanting Hare Krishna, he immediately becomes purified and becomes as good as the most learned Brahmana. Sridhar Swami especially remarks in this connection, Anena Pujatvang Lakshate. Some caste Brahmanas remark that by chanting Hare Krishna, purification begins. Of course, that depends on the individual process of chanting. But this remark of Sridhar Swami's is completely applicable if one chants the holy name of the Lord without offense, for he immediately becomes more than a Brahmana. As Sridhar Swami says, Pujatvam, he immediately becomes as respectable as the most learned Brahmana and can be allowed to perform Vedic sacrifices. If simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord one becomes sanctified instantly, then what can be said of those persons who see the Supreme Lord face to face and who understand the descent of the Lord as Devahuti understands Kapila Dev? This is mentioned about Devahuti and Kapila Dev because this verse is spoken by Devahuti to Kapila Dev. Usually initiation depends on the bona fide spiritual master who directs the disciple. If he sees that a disciple has become competent and purified by the process of chanting, he offers the sacred thread to the disciple just so that he will be recognized as 100% equal with a Brahmana. This is also confirmed in the Hari Bhakti Vilas by Sanatan Goswami. As a base metal, like bell metal, can be changed into gold by a chemical process, any person can similarly be changed into a Brahmana by Diksha Vidhan, the initiation process. Anyone know that verse? Anyone? Yatha kanchanatam yati kanchan rasa vidhanata tato diksha vidhanena dvijatvam jayate nranam. Brahmin? We should know that verse. It is sometimes remarked that by the chanting process one begins to purify himself and can take birth in his next life in a Brahmana family and then be reformed. But at this present moment, even those who are born in the best Brahmana families are not reformed, nor is there any certainty that they are actually born of Brahmana fathers. Formerly the Garbhadhan reformatory system was prevalent, but at the present moment there is no such Garbhadhan or seed-giving ceremony. Under these circumstances, no one knows if a man is factually born of a Brahmana father. Whether one has acquired the qualification of a Brahmana depends on the judgment of the bona fide spiritual master. He bestows upon the disciple the position of a Brahmana by his own judgment. When one is accepted as a Brahmana in the sacred thread ceremony under the Pancharatric system, then he is Dvija, twice born. That is confirmed by Sanatana Goswami, Dvija Dvangjayate. That's just from that verse I quoted. By the process of initiation by the spiritual master, a person is accepted as a Brahmana in his purified state of chanting the holy name of the Lord. He then makes further progress to become a qualified Vaishnava, which means that the Brahminical qualification is already acquired. Om Jnana Tinirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Shrishtham Manamapi Shachiputramatra Swarupam Rupam Tasya Gajamurupurim Mathurim Goshthatim Radha Kundam Girivaramaho Radhika Madhavasham Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Gurum Tam Natosmi Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Ataf Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Karajana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Before I comment on this, I'll read a section from the commentary in his partial translation of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Srila Prabhupada's Gauda Bhakti Hriday Bon Maharaj. This is a commentary which Srila Prabhupada in a letter authorized his disciples to read. Now, Jiva Goswami quotes this verse in his Bhakti Sandarbha. No, his commentary, his commentary of Jiva Goswami quotes in his Bhakti Sandarbha. He comments on a verse of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu in which Rupa Goswami quotes this verse which we're reading today. The purport of which is quite revolutionary, that those not born in Brahmin families can attain the status of a Brahmin simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord, which also upholds the contention I made yesterday that generally it is accepted in Vedic society that one's Varna situation is determined by birth, but it's not. The flexibility has to be allowed also, but generally it is by birth. We don't find that emphasized very much in Srila Prabhupada's books, although it's right here in the Bhagavatam, presumably because that idea was so deeply entrenched that it's only by birth that Srila Prabhupada wanted to give the fuller picture. Now, from Bon Maharaj's commentary, according to Sri Jiva Goswami, though this rudimentary bhakti in a born Chandala, one who is born as a Chandala, rudimentary bhakti means just by chanting, without following anything else, this rudimentary bhakti will remove the effects of his past misdeeds. Because someone's born in a Chandala family due to his past misdeeds. And as Srila Prabhupada comments here, in his purport, person is born in a Brahmin family due to his past pious activities. Yet the Chandala, who's chanting the holy name, must wait for the next birth in a higher social status to qualify himself for the performance of the Vedic sacrifices, which seems to go against the statement of the sadhyaha, immediately, the statement of the verse, which is upheld by Sridhar Swami, the commentator. So in this case, Jiva Goswami not exactly contradicts, but qualifies the statement of the Shastra. He says that just as one who is born a Brahmana, the word he uses, Brahma Kumaram. No, Brahmana Kumaranam Shokre Janmani. He talks about a boy who takes seminal birth as a Brahmana. So, just as one who is born a Brahmana must wait to be purified through the sacred thread ceremony in order to perform sacrifices. In other words, just by being born as a Brahmana, you can't perform. So here it's being discussed about eligibility to perform sacrifices. One who chants the holy name even once, even if born in a family of dog eaters, is eligible to perform Vedic sacrifices, which is normally reserved for Brahmanas. But Jiva Goswami points out that, well, even if you're born in a Brahmin family, okay, you're a Brahmana, but you have to be initiated as a Brahmana by the Upanayanam Samskara. One has to attain that. And then one is trained how to perform sacrifices, and then one can actually perform sacrifices. Technically, the eligibility comes with the Upanayanam Samskara, the conferral of the sacred thread and the Brahma Gayatri mantra. But that's actually supposed to be the beginning of the education by which one becomes eligible to perform Vedic sacrifices. Brahmana has to memorize at least one of the four Vedas then he can go on and do other things. Jiva Goswami says that one must wait to be purified through the sacred thread ceremony in order to perform sacrifice. In the same way, one who has chanted the holy name is eligible to perform Vedic sacrifice, but he must wait to take birth as a Brahmana in order to actually perform Vedic sacrifice. And Jiva Goswami says that, okay, chant the holy names, you're eligible to perform Vedic sacrifice, but actually you have to wait to take another birth before you can perform the sacrifice. Bon Maharaj comments, he says that Jiva Goswami, it is obvious, is reluctant to disturb the social order. In other words, he says Jiva Goswami is saying this is not really true, but he's saying this so as not to disturb the order, and tries to conform as far as possible to the extant practices and ideas of the Hindu society of his time. Vishwanath Chakravarti, however, considers Jiva Goswami's view to give away the whole case for the quality of prarabdha papa haratva, power of deliverance from sin, that is claimed for bhakti. In other words, if you say you still have to wait, then what's the import of this verse? It weakens the whole effect of it, Vishwanath says. So here we have apparent differences of opinion between acharyas. Vishwanath's view is that bhakti, however slight, will at once remove all taints from the fallen human being and qualify him for the social duties of the Hindus. Well, we wouldn't use the word Hindus, I hope, but Bon Maharaj does. This is rather a controversial problem. The question is between eligibility and capability. Jiva Goswami here argues that a Brahmana born in a higher social order because of good deeds in previous births is eligible to perform Vedic rituals, while even a Chandala born in the lowest social order due to his misdeeds in previous births becomes fully capable of performing such Vedic rituals when his prarabdha is wiped out by singing and listening to the name of the Lord in the stage of bhakti, in the stage of practice of bhakti. But, as even a person born in a Brahmana family has to wait till his sacred thread ceremony before he can actually perform such Vedic rituals in spite of his eligibility, so a devotee born in a Chandala family is cleansed of his sins committed in previous births by practicing the rudiments of bhakti and becomes eligible to perform Vedic rites. But he does not do this as he is not interested in the fruits of Vedic karma. So that's another angle on it, that even if a Chandala is eligible to perform Vedic sacrifice, he's not interested anyway because he's a devotee. He's not interested in performing sacrifices as karma kanda ritual. He's not interested in being identified as a Brahmana or a Chandala because he's not interested in any social position whatsoever. He realizes, I'm an eternal servant of Krishna. I chose this verse to speak on today because today something will happen in Seattle that until recently in India would be, or definitely until recently in India it would have been unimaginable. And in America it would be unimaginable for another reason. That is, a person of Mleccha Chandala background will be conferring Brahminical initiation upon others of Mleccha Chandala background. It's unimaginable, it was unimaginable in India because how can Westerners do such things? It's just not allowed. You have to be born a Hindu. You can't. I often used to hear this in the 1970s in India. You cannot be a Hindu. You have to be born a Hindu. I tell people, well, I don't want to be born a Hindu, and I don't want to be a Hindu. You can be a Hindu. I don't want to be a Hindu. Actually, you're not a Hindu either. To them, we seem like Hindus because of, but by Srila Prabhupada's grace, we could understand that though culturally we may be perceived as Hindus, socially we may be perceived as Hindus. Srila Prabhupada has taught us to do many activities which are generally identified as Hindu, such as chanting the holy names of the Lord, well, pretty much everything, offering puja, going to temples, honoring prasadam, honoring the cow, the Ganga, is what Hindus do. Muslims don't honor the Ganga. Who honors the cow? Hindus and Jains. So it may be perceived as Hindu. So it's unimaginable in India that people from the West could become Brahmanas, gurus, or that these activities could go on in the West at all. There's a very strong opposition to that. The idea that a Westerner could become a Brahmana or a sannyasi, Srila Prabhupada came up against much opposition from that when he brought Western devotees back to India. Some people were very happy to see it, and some people were very unhappy. I'm talking about among Hindus in India. Some of those who were devotional, they were very happy, and those who were attached to the status of a Brahmana, they were very unhappy. And it was unimaginable in America because no one had any idea what a Brahmana, a Hindu, or initiation is anyway. It's as unimaginable as gazelti-doos. Right? It's as completely unimaginable as gazelti-doos. You know what gazelti-doos are? I just made up the word. That's why it's unimaginable. You couldn't imagine it because it doesn't have any meaning. In America, if 50 years ago, if you talk about, actually they knew the word Brahmin, Boston Brahmanas, right? That term came there. So maybe you have to go a little further back in time to George Washington time, after who this beautiful tract of land is named. He'd never heard of Brahmanas, I presume. So anyway, it was unimaginable, but it's going on. How is it going on? According to the authorization of Shastra. Although that would be disputed, but that is a job of Brahmanas within ISKCON to study the Shastra, know it very well, and be prepared to rebut all the many philosophical challenges that will inevitably arise as the Krishna consciousness movement spreads, as it should spread, as the Krishna consciousness movement becomes influential, as it's supposed to do. Then there'll be many philosophical challenges, and we'll need many specialists in, for instance, in Christianity, in various aspects of science, in rebutting the accusals of people. Even today, there are people, not much, mostly the Brahmanas in India are very appreciative of ISKCON now, because they lost their culture to a large extent, and they appreciate that ISKCON is maintaining a good level of purity. But there are still, even many who themselves appreciate ISKCON, but they still say, no, you can't make non-Brahmanas into Brahmanas. But their temples are all becoming empty, so it may be that via ISKCON or via other Vaishnava movements, Brahmanas, not from Brahmana families, will do the services there. ISKCON has come up, and in the wake of ISKCON, various Gauriya Maths have come up also. So they're also, all of them, they're all gaining energy from Srila Prabhupada and his preaching. So, as is standard on initiation ceremony, for the Harinam initiation, there should be a discussion or talk on the 10 offenses against the holy name, and about the meaning of initiation. Harivilas Prabhu is scheduled to give that talk a little later. And when there's Brahmin initiation, there should be some discussion of the meaning of Brahmin initiation, what it means to be a Brahmana. So I'm doing that now, but I won't have time. I'll plan to speak more later about this. One point I just thought of, among the qualities, just thought of means this morning, yesterday and this morning. One of the qualities of a Brahmana is Shanti, which means tolerance, yeah. So I thought about that in the question was asked yesterday about how during the reign of Lord Rama, people were as happy as in Krita Yuga. So I spoke a little bit about how there's suffering even in Satya Yuga. The miseries of birth, death, old age and disease are always there in the material world, throughout the material world. Some further points about that. One point is that although there is birth, death, old age and disease in all yugas, but in Kali Yuga, the suffering is more because people are more sinful. it will hardly touch people in the Satya Yoga and in the heavenly planets. Birth, death, old age and disease, the misery there is much less. Birth means a woman of the heavenly planets will give birth and immediately the child will grow, so she doesn't have to bother looking after him as he grows up. And old age hardly exists, and death is not long, prolonged, difficult death, but still the suffering is there, one kind of suffering. Knowing that I enjoyed, now I have to leave that enjoyment behind. Buddhists have done much analysis of the misery of the material world. So one of the types of misery is that even when you think you're happy, that happiness turns to distress when you lose it. And another point is that even though one may feel pain, but one who is on a high level of consciousness, he doesn't feel that way or is not affected in the same way as someone who's on a low level of consciousness. I mentioned about Chandrasekhar Prabhu as his knee pain. I don't know how much it is because I'm not him. He experiences it. I don't. We can see by his difficulty in movement that he has some knee pain. But he's happy. So it means the suffering is there, but he's not affected by it as much as someone who's in the bodily concept of life, because he's happy in Krishna consciousness. But it's not that the pain isn't there, it is there, and the difficulty associated with it is there, but he's not affected. As a person in bodily consciousness is affected, who laments shochati iti shudra. The prime symptom of a shudra is that he laments, because he thinks he's the body, and he thinks that happiness is on the bodily platform. So although the pain level may be the same for a devotee and a non-devotee, or someone in higher consciousness, as in Satya Yoga. People are generally in higher consciousness than in Kali Yoga. Although the pain may be the same, but someone who's in higher consciousness, to a large extent, transcends that. So he's not affected by it in the same way. And in that way, he doesn't feel it, at least so much. The pain is there, but he doesn't think this is me and laments over that. So that's another consideration, how people are more happy, by the quality of tolerance. For devotees, the quality of tolerance, well, that can come by philosophical. What is that? Tattvajnana tadarsanat is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, one of the symptoms of knowledge. Tattvajnana artha darshan means always to consider everything philosophically. So philosophically, if we consider I'm not this body, then the pain reduces. We know it's not me, and anyway it's only temporary, and tatenukampa, I'm suffering because of some previously committed sinful activity, so let me accept it and go on with my service to Krishna. So by philosophical consideration, a person can tolerate physical pain, mana, apamana, being insulted, being praised. He can tolerate being praised. What do you mean tolerate? That's nothing to tolerate. That's something to be enlivened by. But someone who's on the transcendental platform, neither is he disturbed by being insulted, nor is he elated by being praised. Because he thinks, well, anyway, I'm supposed to serve Krishna. If someone praises me, well, Jogata bichare kichu nahi pai tomara karuna sha. I don't have any qualities. If there's anything they're praising, they're actually praising my guru who has bestowed this upon me. So in this way, he's not affected by, he tolerates both praise honor and dishonor. He tolerates both. So by philosophical consideration, one can become tolerant. And another way, which goes on simultaneously for a brahmana, for a regular brahmana, he can tolerate by philosophical consideration. And for a Vaishnava, because parang drishva nivartate, rasabhajang rasopyasya parang drishva nivartate. Because he's experiencing a higher taste in Krishna consciousness, then the worldly disturbances, which might severely disturb someone else, he may not even notice them. I was surprised when I first heard from Hari Shauri Prabhu, who was traveling constantly with Srila Prabhupada, when he was appointed as Srila Prabhupada's permanent servant. Permanent means during a period of time. His personal servant, Srila Prabhupada, said, your only duty now is to be with me 24 hours a day. Only duty. That way, that means even 16 rounds may be subordinate to that. To another of his servants, Prabhupada told him, Pushta Krishna, Swami at the time, said to Prabhupada, I'm so busy in your service, I don't have time to chant my 16 rounds. Prabhupada said, Prabhupada was very satisfied with this service. You go on with your service, and I will maintain you in your spiritual life, Srila Prabhupada told him. So that's not an excuse for not chanting 16 rounds, but Srila Prabhupada, he gave that waiver under certain circumstances. Well, at least I know of one other instance in which Srila Prabhupada, he gave a waiver on the chanting of 16 rounds. That was Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu, who was cooking for Krishna Balaram all day, every day. And devotees asked when he's chanting his rounds. And Srila Prabhupada said, at least I've heard like this, that for him it doesn't matter. He's fully engaged in service. It's the same thing. Anyway, about Hari Shauri Prabhu, I first heard from him many years after Srila Prabhupada departed this world, that all the time he was with Srila Prabhupada was sick. He always had digestive problems, he regularly had tooth problems, he had tinnitus, is it called? Yeah, the ringing in the ears. He had so many different, sometimes he had arthritic problems, kidney problems, always one thing after another. But you'd never guess it most of the time, because Srila Prabhupada, most of the time, just looked as if he was in full health. Or what to speak of his heart attacks and strokes. But Srila Prabhupada, by his transcendental effulgence and radiance and enthusiasm, appeared to be in perfect health. In other words, he transcended his bodily condition to a large extent. So that's another way, just by being so absorbed in Krishna consciousness that one overcomes all these things. Another consideration is Joto deko Vaishnava Bevahara Dukt Nischoy Janeho Taha Parananda Shuk. If we see that a Vaishnava appears to be unhappy, we should know that actually he's always in transcendental bliss. He's never unhappy. There's a series of photos that Guru Das Prabhu made in London, black and white, very special series of photos of Srila Prabhupada. They used to, on the Berry Place Temple wall, there used to be, maybe Hari Vilas Prabhu remembers, Berry Place Temple in London, there are these photos, black and white photos of Srila Prabhupada. One of them is quite a well-known photo of Srila Prabhupada with just his face with the lips curled down, which gives a look of like a grimace or unhappiness. And when one devotee, I believe it was Yamuna, said to Prabhupada that, "Oh, you look very sad," Prabhupada said, "That was a moment of ecstasy." So which brings us to another consideration. Vaishnava, what is that? Vaishnavara Kriya Mudra Bigeho Nabuja. This is Srila Prabhupada. He often quoted this. It says, his rendering of a statement in Chaitanya Charitamrita that the activities and everything about a Vaishnava, even someone who's very learned from the worldly point of view, cannot understand them. So, about making Boston Brahmanas, real Boston Brahmanas. Actually, the first initiation, Brahmin initiation Srila Prabhupada did in America was in Boston. Real Brahmanas. Okay, I'm going to read now from my website, something that I wrote, about standards, requirements for Brahminical initiation by myself. Now, before that, I gave a list of standards for Harinam initiation, which are more than the regular. Srila Prabhupada gave the standard 16 rounds, 4 regulated principles. Of course, he gave many other standards for his disciples, which were not part of the vow. Rising early, he gave a list, that's famous list. All initiated devotees must, and then a whole list of standards Srila Prabhupada gave. Which means taking only Krishna prasadam, must not engage in mundane sports, and so on. So I've given an extended list, which is not part of the initiation vow, but I didn't print it out here. Things like not watching TV, not going to the cinema, and so on. In other words, if you're going to be initiated, you have to be serious. Otherwise, what's the point? Initiation means Dikha Kale Bhakta Kare Ata Samarpan. At the time of initiation, the devotee surrenders his very self. So there's no meaning to being initiated if one is, if he thinks that the initiation vow means only 16 rounds and 4 regulated principles, and the 4 regulated principles are interpretable by one's own self. No. So those standards are there. And then after this on my website, I write that these standards are not meant to discourage or intimidate, but to encourage sincere candidates to rise to a level that will make their initiation truly meaningful as a platform from which to seriously advance in devotional service. Persons reluctant to come to this level should not be recommended to myself for initiation. You follow that? Shall I read it again? It's important. These standards are not meant to discourage or intimidate, but to encourage sincere candidates to rise to a level that will make their initiation truly meaningful. It's not very meaningful if you're just going on with some semblance of devotional service. Truly meaningful as a platform from which to seriously advance in devotional service. Okay, then requirements for Brahminical initiation. I'll speak some more about this a little later because it seems there's not time now. Candidates should have observed all the requirements given above for at least 2 years after first initiation. That's general standard. Be exemplary in sadhana and behavior. Have a strong service attitude and not have a tendency to waste time or indulge in idle talk. They should have either passed a Bhakti Shastri degree or read all 12 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam with purports, and also passed a standard test required for Brahminical initiation. Of the two, I would put reading all the Bhagavatam as more important. Sometimes devotees think, well, I did my Bhakti Shastri degree, so now I don't need to read the books. But the Bhakti Shastri study should be an addition to reading the books, not an alternative to it. Studying Bhakti Shastra, the course, is supposed to help us better understand what is in the books. We should have, especially those who are Brahminically initiated, they should have a good understanding of what is in those books. So of the two, reading is more important. Although Srila Prabhupada also wanted his disciples to take this Bhakti Shastra degree. And they should also pass the standard, if they are illiterate or barely literate and intending to take up deity service, should have an exemplary service attitude. This study requirement may be waived for temple resident devotees, especially those performing essential services. They should not earn money by employment and should be engaged in preaching, teaching, or deity service. Now, I'll explain this for the umpteenth time, why I make this requirement. Srila Prabhupada wanted to establish Varnashram Dharma, which means that not all devotees will be designated as Brahmanas. As we learn from this verse, which we read today, a devotee is automatically on the level of a Brahmana, and actually, as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur elaborately explained, a Vaishnava is on a platform much more than that of a Brahmana. Brahmajanatiti Brahmana, one may know what is Brahma, one may know what is the Vedas, or one may know what is impersonal Brahman, but to fully understand Krishna is the fullness of a Brahmana. But one doesn't have to go through the stage of being born as a Brahmana or even to have studied the Vedas directly in order to, or even to have studied anything, to have full faith in Krishna. Of course, one should be guided by devotees, but one can also be completely illiterate and be a pure devotee of Krishna. And an illiterate pure devotee of Krishna is on a much more exalted platform than even a Brahmana, born Brahmana, who's that's also stated. What is it? It is Viprad Vishadaguna Yutta Aravindanabha. Where does that verse comes? Oh, that's Prahlad's teachings. Aravindanabha. I can't remember the verse. He says that even if one is a Brahmana qualified with all the qualifications, Aravindanabha, I'm trying to remember, it's not coming. If he's inimical to Krishna and Krishna consciousness, then he can't even purify himself, what to speak of others. People think, oh, Brahmana, we can get purified by him. He can't even purify himself. Aravindanabha vimakat svapachan varishtat. But someone who's born in, again, the Chandala dog-eater family, he can purify himself. He's automatically pure and purifies others if he's a devotee of Krishna. So this is a repeated theme in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Then why give Brahminical initiation? Well, we'll leave that then, and I'll continue later, Krishna willing. Yeah. Okay, please go on. Hanging in the air, in suspense.